One of the many problems with lying is that if people start to realize that you're lying and you don't want to admit it, you have to keep lying in a pathetic attempt to cover up your lies. Nowhere is this more evident than in Dawah. Dawah is deception. Just a few days ago, I posted a video about a young convert to Islam who explained what he'd heard from the Dawagandists about Muhammad's relationship with Aisha. He said he'd heard that there's only one source that says Aisha was young, while there are hundreds of sources that say she was much older. The point of my video was that the Dawah gangs lie about Muhammad in order to keep people in a state of ignorance so that they can go on winning converts to Islam. So I pointed out some lies about Muhammad, and guess how our Muslim friends responded? Guess how our Muslim friends responded in the comments section when I exposed some of their lies. If you guessed truthfully with strong evidence, thorough citations, and impeccable logic, let me take you on a quick trip to planet reality. Hippocrates, in Bible it is clearly mentioned that Marie married at the age of 12 with Joseph. Wasn't that wrong? The answer to your baseless question is given by our beloved Muhammad Hijab, who has destroyed you multiple times, and Ali Dawah has also given answer to your baseless question. Go and watch. Notice the lies. It's mentioned in the Bible that Marie was 12? No, it isn't. That's a lie. The Bible says that Mary was a woman, and the Bible calls 12-year-old girls little girls, not women. He says that Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawah have answered this. Well, they do say things in response to this issue, but they've never given anything remotely resembling a serious response to the problem. Ali Dawah admits that Aisha was 9 years old, but he lies and says that she had already reached puberty. He also says that if his own daughter starts menstruating at 9 years old, he'll tell her that she's ready for marriage.
If my daughter reached the age of menstruation at 9 years old, I would say you are ready to get married.
And Muhammad Hijab admits that the Quran allows sex with prepubescent girls.
If you look just at the Quran, you will get the indication that you can have sexual intercourse with a 5-year-old. If you just read the Quran, it is halal, it would be halal to have sexual intercourse with a 5-year-old. In Surah Al-Talaq, chapter 65, verse 4, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us who you can divorce and who you cannot divorce. And then he says, وَاللَّائِ لَمْ يَحِدْنَ وَاللَّائِ لَمْ يَحِدْنَ, and the ones who had never been pubescent before.
What a religion, revolting and deceptive. This lady, she's talking about Hatun Tash in the video I posted, how Mary gave birth at the age of 12 plus. Well, she's technically right because 12 plus would mean 12 or older, and Mary was certainly older, but what does that have to do with Aisha being 9? How old was Mary, Woan's dag? She married the 90-year-old Joseph, 12 years old, and that is the mother of your God. They claim to respect Mary, but they can't stop lying about her. Since you want to bring age in your arguments against Islam, according to Christianity, Joseph was 90 years old when he married Mary at the age of 12 years old. The hypocrisy of you and your fans is unbelievable. Does Christianity claim that Mary was 12 and that Joseph was 90? No. Notice, once they tell a lie, they all spread the same lie. It never occurs to them to be honest, even if they're lying about Mary. What a religion. Bwah ha 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 ha. David Caillou should have known Mary 12 years old and Joseph 90 years old, Rebecca 3 years old when married Isaac. So now we have the lie about Mary, the lie about Joseph, and the additional lie about Rebecca and Isaac. This is what Muhammad has done to his followers. They become so desperate to defend his relationship with a prepubescent girl that they start seeing pedophilia everywhere. and they want to accuse everyone of pedophilia. What does the Bible actually say about the age of Rebekah? Well, it doesn't give a specific age for Rebekah, but Rebekah is repeatedly called a young woman before she marries Isaac. Abraham sends his servant to find a wife for Isaac. The servant replies, "Perhaps the woman may not be willing to follow me to this land." What sort of wife are they looking for? A toddler? No, a woman. And Abraham confirms that they're talking about a woman. Then the servant goes to the city of Nahor around the time when women go out to draw water. Who goes out to draw water? Toddlers? No, women. Rebekah comes out to draw water, and we read that the young woman was very attractive in appearance, a maiden whom no man had known. Then the young woman ran and told her mother's household about these things. "Let the young woman remain with us a while, at least 10 days. Let us call the young woman and ask her." So, no age is given for Rebekah, but she's repeatedly called a young woman. So, how do they justify the absurd claim that Rebekah was a toddler? By lying. Look at what happens when they try to prove that Rebekah was only 3 years old. He was immoral for marrying her? Ow, really? Let's grab the authority of the remaining Bible we have today, shall we? Rebekah was 3 years old when marrying Isaac. How do we know this? A little mathematical calculation. Let's see how far we get before we get to more lies. 1. Sarah gave birth to Isaac at the age of 90, Genesis 17. 2. Sarah died at the age of 127, Genesis 23, 1 through 3. 3. The incident on Mount Moriah, Genesis 22, and the birth of Rebekah happened at the same time when Isaac was 36 or 37 years old, same time when Sarah died, Genesis 23, 1 through 3. Liar. Liar. Notice, he gives references here, knowing that the vast majority of people who read something like this won't bother to look up the references, because they'll assume that the person is telling them the truth. But there's nothing in Genesis 22 or Genesis 23 or anywhere else in the Bible saying that the incident on Mount Moriah and the birth of Rebekah happened at the same time. It's a lie. But they need this lie as a starting point for their calculations. Since this lie is the starting point of their calculations, the age they come up with is based on a total lie. Now, that's enough to refute the lie, but look at the next source. Genesis Rabbah 57:1. Say what now? That's not in the Bible. That's Midrash. Now he's including non-biblical sources, knowing that the vast majority of people reading this won't know that he's not citing the Bible here. Why is he going outside the Bible? Because he can't defend his point by going to the Bible. All the Bible says about the age of Rebekah is that she's a young woman. They're lying about Rebekah, and they're implicating Isaac and Abraham in this. This is Islam. They claim to respect the prophets, but they're falsely accusing multiple prophets of supporting or engaging in pedophilia. What a religion. Notice the principle at work in all of this. The basic principle they're using is this. If you tell the truth about Muhammad, we'll lie about people in the Bible. If you tell the truth about our prophet, we'll lie about Mary and Joseph and Abraham and Isaac and Rebekah and Moses. What a religion. As if Muhammad didn't lie about people in the Bible enough, his followers continue to lie about them. But they don't just lie about people in the Bible, they also lie about Muhammad and Aisha and their own sources. Hazrat Aisha's age. This hadith cannot be true for several reasons. First, the Prophet could not have gone against the Quran to marry a physically and intellectually immature child. Liar. Where does the Quran say that a girl has to be physically and intellectually mature? Chapter and verse, liar. I'll tell you what the Quran does say. The Quran does say that men can marry prepubescent little girls. Get him, Muhammad Hijab.
And by the way, this is very important, yeah? I want all Muslims to be aware of this. The reason why we don't have sexual intercourse with 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds or whatever is not because of puberty. Wait a minute, what did you say? It's not because of puberty, because that verse in the Quran actually says lam yahid. They never had puberty before. You can't go around that. The Quran doesn't say anywhere in the Quran that the woman has to be pubescent.
Then we have one of these ridiculous mathematical calculations where they go to a ton of different sources to try to calculate a different age for Aisha, forgetting to mention that all of their main sources say that Aisha was 9 when her prophet climbed on top of her. Let me know if you'd like me to go through some of these calculations at some point, because they're massively deceptive. Somehow they'll conclude that it can be conclusively said that she was 19. What a bunch of liars. The correct translation is from Bukhari, al-Bukhari 476. Oh my goodness, Al-Fadi and I just made a video about that deliberate mistranslation. In the Arabic, Aisha says, "From the time I could remember things." The translators mistranslate it as, "From the time I reached puberty." Total deception. But once again, as soon as someone lies, they all spread the lie. There's no concept of correcting the lie. We have to do it for them. And they get mad at us for correcting the lie. Since Aisha was living in Mecca, she was menstruating. Sahih al-Bukhari, 1650. Narrated Aisha, "I was menstruating when I reached Mecca." Did you catch that? Aisha left Mecca when she was a child. Muhammad had already married her. Years later, she returned to Mecca. This is about her returning to Mecca years later. But this guy pretends she was saying that she had reached puberty when she was originally living in Mecca. Liars. Aisha was engaged before that. Prophet Paba marry her, and second, precocious puberty was common at the time. Read historical books if you are educated. In Quran, they put marriage only at the age of puberty. The Quran puts marriage at the age of puberty. Liar. Chapter and verse. Get her, Muhammad Hijab.
I dare you to find one verse in the Quran where it says you're not allowed to marry someone based on harm, or you're not allowed to have sexual intercourse based on harm, or you're not allowed to marry someone based on puberty. So if you're in Quran alone, you're allowed to have sexual intercourse with 5-year-olds. Get me one verse in the Quran which says the woman has to be pubescent. One verse. I want one verse in the Quran from the beginning of the book to the end of the book which says that she has to be pubescent.
And we know from the hadith that Aisha hadn't reached puberty. Sahih al-Bukhari, 6130. Narrated Aisha, "I used to play with the dolls in the presence of the Prophet, and my girlfriends also used to play with me. When Allah's messenger used to enter my dwelling place, they used to hide themselves, but the Prophet would call them to join and play with me. Playing with the dolls and similar images is forbidden, but it was allowed for Aisha at that time, as she was a little girl, not yet reached the age of puberty." Aisha was never forced to marriage, and also she wanted our Prophet. She was 6 when Muhammad married her. She wanted him. In fact, she was the one who flirted with him. A 6-year-old girl was flirting with Muhammad. How was she flirting with him? Our Prophet had a dream on Aisha coming with angels in silk green dress and very pretty, and angels told our Prophet, "This is your wife in this life and hereafter." She flirted with him in his dream when he was dreaming about his best friend's 6-year-old daughter. Why are you blaming our Prophet? He couldn't help himself. That 6-year-old little girl was tempting him in his dream. Do you see what Dawah does to people? After being conditioned for years to lie and to accept lies, there's no longer a concept of speaking truthfully. The overall strategy of modern Dawah is to throw so many lies at people on so many different issues that no one can possibly respond to all the lies. When you point out a simple fact about Muhammad, namely that he had sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl. The Dawah strategy is to throw so many lies at you that you just give up. They want everyone to be drowning in a sea of lies, because if you're drowning, it's hard to focus on the original correct point you made, namely that Muhammad had sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl. Dawah is deception, always has been, always will be. And what will the Dawagandists do now that I've exposed even more of their lies about Muhammad and Aisha and Mary and Joseph and Abraham and Isaac and Rebecca and the Quran? They'll flood the comments section with more lies. They just can't stop because they worship a God who brags about being the best of deceivers. Be careful what you worship, ladies and gentlemen, lest you become like it.
You tried on that. You tried on that. You tried on that. It just backfired on you. You tried on that. You tried on that. You tried on that. It just backfired on you. This is a part of our religion. There's a reason to it. Yeah?